welcome to DDOCast episode 377, recorded live on Sunday, April 12th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have BonnieBew. Welcome back.
Hello, I'm glad to be back.
Excited to have you. This week's first screenshot, because we missed a week, you get 2 screenshots this week. Lucky you. Nervsion finds a forgotten cavern in the 216th screenshot of the week. Nice little place. I'm assuming that's the Forgotten Cavern quest in House K, based on the tagline. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, DDO forums, website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by CyberAirs, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording, and the next show will probably be on next Sunday, April 19th. Probably going to be doing a show on reviewing Update 25. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, Update 25 is live, and we'll have some game news, some stuff that might be coming in the future. We're also going to talk about building for past lives and doing reincarnations with our expert, BonnieBew, on the subject. And a quick couple housekeeping notes. 2 things mostly. The first is we will probably be going back to having more video on the show. It looks like Google Hangouts is working again for me, so that will probably be. I know some people did like the videos and want the videos back, so I will be working on that. But I didn't want to try and change things up for what was going on here, and where I had announced that people could watch the show live. The other thing is I'm going to be changing the order of the show. In the past, we've done news at the beginning and then kind of moved into the roundtable discussion for the week. And what I'm going to do going forward is we're going to do the roundtable discussion first. For the simple reason that if we're going to rush through trying to finish out the show in a somewhat timely-ish fashion, I want to be able to do that with the news portion, not the roundtable discussion, which I think is kind of more the meat and potatoes of the show, at least the way that I'm doing it. So we're going to start there. We're going to be talking about building for past lives today. We got Bonnie on the show, who is as she just professed to me, lives to do the next reincarnation.
Yes, it's my favorite feature of Dungeons & Dragons Online, and I mean it's pretty unique to Dungeons & Dragons Online to be able to reincarnate and start anew at different stages in the game rather than just leveling up your character to cap and then grinding the end game. And if you want to do it all over again, you pretty much have to start a new character in other games. But DDO is different, and I love that about DDO.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of players really enjoy doing. It's something that some players don't really enjoy doing. So there's a lot of different forms of past lives and stuff, and we'll kind of try and get through at least most of them in general. I think maybe, let's see, where should we start? Let's go over the types of reincarnation first, I think. Probably the best place to start.
So there are 4 total types of reincarnation. We're going to focus on 3 of them. The first one is lesser. It's the one we're not going to talk about very much, but the basic thing about lesser reincarnation is if you're a brand spanking new first life character that's a 28-point build, if you lesser reincarnate, you can become a 32-point build. So some people like that because more build points means that sometimes you can tweak the types of builds that you're doing and gives you a few more options. So that's a nifty thing. What we're going to talk about more importantly are the 3 major types that give you actual past life feats: the true druidic reincarnation, epic reincarnation, and iconic reincarnation. So all these use their individual heart types. You can obtain the heart types through different ways, whether it's going to the fellow whose name I can't remember in the 12. What's his name?
The elemental?
The elemental guy by the altar in
Lahar?
the 12.
I think it's Lahar.
Something like that. But you can, if you've gathered your tokens of the 12 or your greater tokens of the 12 or your fragments of tokens of the 12, you can go to him and you can trade those in for a true druidic heart. If you have been doing epic quest and you have been gathering up your commendations of valor or your heart seeds, you can double click on those items in your inventory and then trade them for an epic reincarnation heart or an iconic reincarnation heart. Or you can purchase all these items in the DDO store, but you can earn them as well. So that's basically that's how I'll start the whole discussion. True Druidic Reincarnation. You can use a True Druidic heart anytime between level 20 and level 28 on a non-iconic character. It puts you back on Korthos Beach as a level 1 character with the class, alignment, and race of your choice. Now, you also get a heroic past life feat of whatever the main class was in your build before you reincarnated. And the first time you true reincarnate, you get more build points. You become a 34-point build. The second time, you become a 36-point build, and then that's the plateau. It doesn't get any higher than 36-point build, no matter how many times you do true reincarnation in the future.
And it's worth noting, too, when we're talking about that, even if you're already a 28-point build, if you're starting with a 28-point build, if you do a reincarnation, you will go straight to 34 points.
Yeah, it's
the first time.
Nice, juicy jump.
It is. I remember doing that with my main character, actually.
It's like, wow, I have so many points to spend!
Yeah, they came out with reincarnation and heroic reincarnation because there wasn't epic yet, and I had my original character was not my original character, but the main character on the server, the first one on that server, was still 28 points, and so he got 6 extra build points out of that. So
it's pretty awesome. I love build points. Oh, I just love I love reincarnation so much. Another thing I guess I should note is when you reincarnate, when you first start out. And if you're not a VIP character, if you're a free-to-play character or a premium character, or account, I guess I should say, you can only open quests on normal. But once you do a true reincarnation, once you do 1, you can open up quests on hard, and once you do 2, you can open up quests on elite the first time that you run them. So that's a nice add-in that reincarnation provides.
There's also kind of a drawback. It takes more XP to level.
Oh, it does take more XP. Oh, XP falls down like rain. We have bravery bonuses and stuff, and we have all kinds of bonus weekends like this weekend and things like that, where there's lots of options for XP, I think. So at least for heroic levels, don't be scared of XP. XP pieces are good for you.
Yeah, but it's worth noting. It's
worth noting.
It's gonna there is plenty of XP in the game, so it's not a question of whether or not you can get the XP. It's just gonna be more XP. You need more XP to get. So it's worth noting and worth being aware of.
And what's the numbers? Your first life, for any first life character, it takes 1.9 million to level. For the first TR, it's something like 2.5 or something. I can't remember. It's still an easy number to get. And then once you've reincarnated at least twice, it's 3.8 million. So twice as much XP as when you first rolled your character. And then it flattens out at that point. It's always going to be 3.8 million at that point. The other types of reincarnation are epic reincarnation. An epic reincarnation heart can be used at the epic cap, which is currently level 28. You need to have 6 million XP stockpiled in one of the 4 epic destiny spheres as well, which is divine, martial, primal, or arcane. And this reincarnation type allows you to level up your character to level 20 again, and then it grants you an epic past life feat from the sphere of your choice that you traded in that 6 million stockpiled XP for. And then once you claim the epic past life, that 6 million XP goes away, and you have to earn it again before you can claim another epic past life in that same sphere. I hope that makes sense.
Made sense to me, but I do that.
Yes.
That's the one type of reincarnation that I do regularly. So
it's kind of it's kind of interesting. That one's interesting. I like it. And then iconic. An iconic reincarnation heart can be used at the epic cap, which is current level 28, on an iconic character only. So that's what makes it different from the true druidic reincarnation. Is the true druidic reincarnation doesn't apply to iconic characters. You cannot use those types of hearts on a character that is currently an iconic. You have to use an iconic heart on a character that is currently iconic. And vice versa, you can't use an iconic heart on a character that is currently not iconic.
Which is important to note, because people get confused about this a lot. Even people who do it all the time. It's what you currently are. That's what heart you need, not what you're going to be.
Right. So an iconic reincarnation will grant you an iconic past life feat. And a heroic past life feat for the main class in your last build. You can either wake up as a level 1 non-iconic on Korthos, or you can level up to level 15 as another iconic character type. And if you started out life as an iconic, you can be granted up to 36 build points by doing those types of reincarnations too. So those are the three main types of reincarnations that you can do. You can mix and match them, but you just have to think about what type of reincarnations they are to figure out exactly what you can do at any point in time. So I guess that's like the intro into what kind of reincarnation types are there available.
And we also think we stick in here what kind of past lives there are. So with a heroic reincarnation, you get a past life based on whatever your dominant class was, which we'll go over in a minute. And you can stack each of those up to 3 times. It's a passive feat. It's always active. You don't have to worry about anything like that. But then they also, having just one of each of those classes' past life feats, allows you, or basically is a prerequisite for taking another feat that you can take. You don't have to, but you can take it. That's you can take at level 3, and it kind of has a little bit of flavor with whatever class you're trying to take. But it kind of gives you a little bit more of a power boost based on those classes. Probably one of the more popular ones would be the Wizard Past Life feat, which gives you +1 to all of your spell DCs. And there's also a Monk one, which increases your unarmed damage. Probably the 2 most popular past life feats to actually take.
I will say also Paladin, because it gives you +10 healing amp. Or it used to be +5%, but now that they've changed healing amp with
well, that's the
update
passive
24.
one, though. That one's the one that you always get.
The passive one.
The ones that I mentioned are ones you have to actually take.
The active ones that you purchase. Yeah, and the sorcerer one is nice too, but it can be a little bit more random than the wizard one. The wizard active feat is kind of like a magic missile type of 10 charge daily, but the sorcerer one is like a random element of laser kind of thing with 10 charges. So those are both fun.
Right. Those are you get those as part of the one that you always get, though, don't you? Or you have to take the feat for them?
Those you have to take the active feat to get the laser pew pew pews on like sorcerer and wizard, whereas the passive one is like extra spell points and DC related.
Okay. So that's how heroic. Those are the past lives for heroic and how they work. When you get to epic past lives, they have 2 parts to them. You get it when you take the past life feat, and they're stackable 3 times. There's a passive benefit that is the same for each sphere, and then there's an active benefit that is a toggle. You can only have one of those for each sphere active, and there's 3 different choices for past lives, for epic past lives, that do things related to the sphere. But so you can have 4 different epic past lives toggled on, provided that you have 4 different past lives from 4 different spheres, which is important to note. If you take 2 from the same sphere, you can't turn both of them on and then have 2 other ones on. It's 1 per sphere. And I just want to provide a little bit of clarification. Wizardman in our chat room saying the damage buff for monks is passive. The active monk is an evasion clicky, which is true. But the damage, so there's 2 damage buffs with the monk. You get a +1 to damage, which is the past life feat that you just get. If you take the advanced past life feat, it increases your damage with unarmed by 1 die step. Which is what I was referring to. Just so that's clear. And then let's see. So we're on epic past life feats. So iconic past life feats are very similar to epic past life feats in that there's a passive bonus and an active toggle, and you can have 1 iconic toggle on at a time. With the exception that the Purple Dragon Knight is an action boost, not a toggle.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird little thing that goes on there.
And I think, I mean, out of my personal preference, I mean, I think the iconic and the epic past life feats are a little bit more snazzy in terms of the bang for your buck at this point in time. But all of the past life feats tweak you a little bit and just add a little bit more of a boost to the character.
Right, and they're incremental.
Hmm.
So the more that you get, the more benefit you're going to get out of them.
Right.
So you have a list of questions that we
Yes.
should go for. So I think let's go through those.
Well, I think I started with the number one rule of reincarnating, or the main theme, is you need to plan and prepare. I mean, that's pretty much what all of these six questions are going to kind of boil down to. Is before you reincarnate, you've got to think about what you're doing. And if you think about what you're doing, you will probably improve your enjoyment of the past life experience. Um, but I have six questions. And the first one is, what past life feats am I trying to obtain? That seems kind of obvious. It's an obvious question. But reincarnating is kind of like painting a floor. When you first start out, you can do anything and you're making progress, whatever choices you make in whatever direction you go. But the more reincarnations you do, the more you start painting yourself into a corner.
I've
You,
never
like
done that ever.
you've never painted yourself into a corner, you've never painted a floor.
Oh, I've painted floors before, always
Hmm.
black because I work in theater. But yeah, I have never painted myself into a corner.
To a corner. That's because you planned and prepared, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We said before that you can obtain all of the past life feats up to 3 times. Anything beyond that, and you aren't going to see benefits to your character. So the point I'm trying to make with this question is it can be a good idea to try and double up the benefits that you receive after leveling any character to 28 or whatever the cap is at the time. Like one day it's going to go to 30. So before you go to cap, try to plan and see if you can get two past life feats out of leveling your character. Iconic Reincarnation will grant you an iconic feat and a heroic feat, so it makes sense to use builds that will give you two feats that you need instead of one. The same thing goes for leveling up, doing a heroic reincarnation and an epic reincarnation at the same time. Try to level up things where you need the heroic past life and you need you're filling in a sphere to get an epic reincarnation past life that's going to benefit you.
Yeah, so there's no, if you just take a heroic reincarnation at level 28, you're missing out on a free opportunity to take a
Yes.
epic reincarnation because you can epic reincarnate. Unfortunately, you have to go through rebuilding a character.
Yeah.
But then you can do a heroic reincarnation really right away.
And people who reincarnate a lot, every single one of them, I feel has suggested that would be really nice if there was a button that you could just push that would allow you to rebuild the character the same way it used to be. Like when you're in the reincarnation screen, can I take the same feats, the same abilities, the same everything when you're reincarnating, when you're doing an epic reincarnation, rather than having to take it all incrementally for each 20 levels? I think I heard that over and over.
It's true, although it would start to break down with spellcasters because the spells would get a little complicated, particularly with wizards
Yeah.
because they have to pick spells into their spellbook. Pro tip here, if you reincarnate with a wizard, as you re-level up your character, you get to pick new spells to go into your spellbook, but you get to keep your old ones too.
Yeah, I
So
was
there's-
surprised the first time that happened to me, and I was like, oh my God, is this broken? Am I going to have the spells? But I did, so I was relieved. But the first time that happened, I panicked.
It's a fair point. But
So it's good you brought that up, so people know, get the word out. This may happen.
I think that was one of those things that I don't think that was the intention, but there wasn't really an easy way to fix it, so they just kind of left it like that.
Yay!
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible thing. That there was a question that one of our listeners asked that I threw in here because it's very germane to what we're talking about. This comes from Xerxion on Kyber, who asked, when planning a bunch of past lives, is it better to focus on epic reincarnations first, heroic true reincarnations first, or combining both during each life?
And I'm going to say that I like to combine both during each life whenever possible. I do think that the epic reincarnation past life feats give you more bang for your buck. And they do make it awfully easy or really assist in leveling up that heroic character. So it's nice to start out with a couple epic reincarnations under your belt, but I definitely think you need to try to plan to do both during each life and not kind of isolate them to each other. And the reason for that really has to do with how the resets work. Epic reincarnations do not reset your raid timers or your raid flagging. They don't reset your slayer areas, that kind of stuff. Whereas heroic reincarnation does. So I like to kind of shake it up a bit, and I'll do a heroic life. I'll flag for things. I'll do slayers. I'll kind of grab the low-hanging fruit, do one or two epic reincarnations, and then I will heroic reincarnate again to reset those timers and get all of my goodies and my first time experience bonuses and my bravery bonus streaks open up again for big juicy XP.
Yeah, I think hauntingly, one of the guys I've had on the show several weeks ago, he does a lot of reincarnating, and one of the things that I've seen him tell people is he generally recommends you do 3 or 4 epic reincarnations, each kind of heroic life, just for the simple fact that you get to reset all of your bravery streaks and your slayer areas, which can be a lot of XP. Those things can be pretty low-hanging fruit, like you said.
Yeah.
I personally like to do it to break things up a little bit. If I'm doing a lot of lives, I prefer in today's game environment to be more in the epic levels. Get a little more powerful. I kind of like it's easier to find groups, and I don't really like soloing that much. So there's a little bit more of a player base in the epic level. You can run with more people. You have a wider level range of people you can run with, and stuff like that. So I kind of like to break up the true reincarnations. I don't do a lot of true reincarnating.
And it's also a lot of personal preference too, because I know people who really kind of gravitated towards doing the iconic reincarnations because they prefer the in-game content, kind of like you prefer the epic level content. So they were happy as pigs in mud to skip going to Korthos ever again and just get all of the iconic past lives that they could. So that's a little bit of flavor. I mean, I say that you combine these, but if you really, really like leveling heroic characters, it might suit your personality more to just do all your heroics up front. Because, this is kind of informational, but at the same time, you want to adapt whatever you choose to do when you reincarnate your character to your own personal play style, your own preferences. So you'll be happy and enjoy your playing experience.
Because it's a game, and you should be having fun.
Yeah.
Feels like a chore. You might reconsider what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Or you might just give up and stop playing, and nobody wants that to happen. Happy players are happy players. It's just, they're more fun to play with, too.
That's true. So what's your second question?
My second question is, what is my build? Also kind of an obvious question, but I know that I am not always very dedicated in doing this. Sometimes I just get so excited and giddy to reincarnate again that I don't really plan out what I'm doing. I just know I need this past life, and I'm ready to reincarnate. I'm tired of doing epic stuff. I want to get a Korthos CG, say hi, and I reincarnate, and then I'm like, now what? And have to figure out what I'm doing on the fly. And I don't enjoy it as much when I do that. So it's good to figure out what your build is up front, kind of plan out what progression you're taking feats, what progression you're taking classes, what you're spending skill points in, what your main stats are going to be, that kind of stuff. And you have a lot of choices when you pick out your build, which is one of my favorite things about DDO. Nowadays, it's not really too hard to level most builds to 20. So there is a whole lot of leeway, I think, nowadays, like more so than there used to be when there weren't as many kind of experience buff things where you didn't have like first time playthrough bonuses and bravery bonus streaks and things like that to kind of plump up your XP. So I think you can get away with experimenting a lot more nowadays with your heroic builds than you used to.
Which is a great way to break up the monotony.
Yeah, yeah. So I find myself doing a lot more experimental stuff, trying things just for the fun of it when I'm doing a heroic past life now than I used to. I used to be pretty strict and straightforward and there wasn't a lot of wriggle room. I would do a lot of the same things each life, and I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit in a second. But that's one thing. If you're only going to do a heroic past life, you can pretty much get away with doing whatever build you feel like. So look at builds on the forums, on the forums that you choose to read, and think about it, come up with ideas, experiment a little, have fun with it. Because here again, it's all about having fun with playing the game. Now, if you're planning to do level up all the way to cap, if you're planning to go all the way to level 28 and get your epic reincarnation too, or if you're doing iconic reincarnations, you need to be a little bit more responsible because the epic level content is a little bit harder than heroic level content. And you still want to make sure that it's not a drudgery and a grind to get back to level 28 so that you can continue the process. And of course, if you plan to stay at level 28 for any period of time, you want to feel that your build is effective. And so if you want to be able to feel like you're a contributing member of any party that you participate in, then you want to plan more for exactly how you're going to progress your build as you level.
It's also worth noting here too that I mean you kind of mentioned a little bit. Certainly, heroic is a little bit more forgiving than epic, for sure. But think about the last question too. Like, what kind of past lives do you want, and what build? If you're stacking, you're going to do a heroic true reincarnation, make a character, and then do a couple iterations of epic past lives, maybe think about that a little bit. For example, I happen to be working on what is normally my cleric right now, and he didn't have any past lives, so I reincarnated him into a wizard because I would like the wizard past life feat. So when I got up to epic, I was focusing on doing with the Shirati champion Primal Sphere because Shirati caster is pretty easy to level up and kind of work through some of those past lives. So you can kind of put these two things together and make your life a little bit more easy and bearable.
Mm-hmm. And I guess there's like two main strategies when you're combining your heroic and your epic reincarnation lives and leveling, because heroic levels you're concerned with, okay, what heroic past life feat am I going to get? Epic levels you're concerned with, what sphere do I have my epic XP in? What kind of epic reincarnation feat am I going to be able to take when I have finished? So you have two different tracks. One might be that you choose to level up a heroic class that is going to fit nicely with whatever sphere that you're trying to get an epic past life in. So it might be something like you're going to be a two-weapon ranger fighter kind of person trying to get a ranger past life using two-weapon fighting, and then you're going to stay in primal avatar as you do your epic leveling, and then claim double shot as your primal epic past life feat. The other route you might go is leveling up whatever past life feat you want, and maybe accepting that you might be playing in an off destiny that doesn't really work necessarily with the build that you're playing, but it's going to get you experience in whatever sphere that you need experience in. And when I do that, typically there's one destiny in every sphere that I prefer. And I guess as another example, at one point, my main character, my oldest character, Zoisha, she became completionist before we had epic past lives, before we had epic destinies. So I had a whole bunch of heroic reincarnations up front and a lot more epic reincarnations to do when I got to the point when I was ready to do them. So I did most of my epic reincarnations as a swashbuckler. And I just kind of flitted between my favorite epic destinies in each sphere for a bard as I earned those past lives. So I kind of jumped between Divine Crusader and Legendary Dreadnought and Fate Singer and maybe Fury of the Wild or Primal Avatar when I was in the Primal Sphere. So those are really the two different strategies you can take when you're trying to combine these. And it's kind of like, what do you feel like doing? Just try to kind of organize in such a way that you're going to benefit from it, but it's not going to be necessarily painful for your playstyle.
Yeah, and you can, if you're doing stuff off Destiny, you can actually find some really interesting synergies going on. Although I will say that my general experience is that if you're playing a caster, the Martial Sphere is kind of hard to find something to work with.
Unless you're an Eldritch Knight, then maybe, just maybe, it will be awesome.
I wouldn't really consider that as much of a caster build, though. It's more of a melee build. But
Yeah.
that's a little more semantics. So you have some examples for building for some heroic lives and kind of a strategy.
Yeah. Now there is one concept. If you're focusing on heroic lives, if you want to be a completionist and stuff, if that's your current goal, then you might want to choose to do a TR build. Now, TR builds include choices that might make you gimp for epic content, but they allow you more freedom to get the past life that you want and make it, give you like little tweaks and stuff like that lets you play the character archetype that you like and allow you to level up really easily as a hero. Some examples might include including one splash level of wizard on any character, and then you choose Archmage Illusion as the first core in the enhancements. That gives your character access to invisibility, and then your spells from the first level of wizard can allow you to gain Night Shield, protection from evil, and things like jump on classes that might not otherwise have access to those spells, or the UMD to cast them from scrolls, like a fighter, a monk, or a barbarian. Another example is like a classic TR build when you prefer playing a caster. And this is what I did with a lot of my early reincarnations. Reincarnations I've been doing lately have tended to be more pure class kind of builds because I think the game has changed enough so that it's become easier to do that and have a few more options for keeping yourself alive. But during my earliest reincarnations, I played a caster TR build, which is basically being warforged, and then having 10 levels of wizard or sorcerer, and then 10 levels of whatever past life you're trying to get. And so the idea here is that the Wall of Fire wins DDO. You can basically burn everything once you get Wall of Fire. And then the Warforged race allows you to self-heal through any content that's more challenging. And ta-da, you win. But of course, the downside is you're pretty much playing the same way with every reincarnation, and that can become a little bit boring, a little bit of drudgery and stuff. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of that if you're considering doing any kind of TR build. Likewise, if you like playing sword and board, then you can try something like splashing 3 paladin levels or 6 fighter levels into your casters, like a wizard or a sorcerer or a cleric or a favorite soul, and then you can still have like defensive stances, and you can have some buffs to like playing as a melee kind of like war priest person or an eldritch knight, like I mentioned earlier, but and still kind of do your sword and board, but you're still getting that caster kind of past life benefit.
I think in general, even in heroic and epic, you can get away with a lot more if you want to play more of a melee or range type, because you can.
Yeah.
They lend themselves, like there's a lot of stuff in caster trees, or in like what we think of casting classes, the ones you mentioned, wizard, sword, cleric, favorite soul, and druid. They have stuff in them that lends themselves to being melee, but that's not true going the other direction. You don't find things that make you better casters in the fighter enhancement trees, whereas with the wizard, you can play with the Eldritch Knight and have a lot of fun with that. Just a little bit more leeway if you're going that direction.
And I guess the last thing is we're going to go back to the idea of precedence and turbine math, because you get a heroic past life in whatever class you have the most levels in. But there is a specific order that you get awarded of precedence between the classes, where certain classes are always going to come out on top in case of a tie. So you want to make sure that whatever build you're doing is going to get you the past life that you're interested in.
Right. There's kind of two ways to know this. One is if you just kind of know the general order, and there's kind of a fairly simple way of doing that. The other one is it's whatever symbol comes up on your character. If you look in the party chat, your dominant
Yeah.
class will show up as that symbol, so that can
Oh,
be kind of a good clue in as well.
and make sure you log in. If you're in doubt, log in again, because if once you take level 20, if that kind of puts you over the top, your icon might not change right away. You might have to log in again before you see the current icon for your dominant class.
Right. Just in case, for those who want to know, the order is Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Wizard, which is the alphabetical order of the original classes for DDO. And then the following classes, the rest of the classes are added in the order in which they're added to the game, which is Monk, Favored Soul, Artificer, Druid. And then Warlock would presumably be underneath that.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. If you do, like, an example would be if you did like 10 Wizard, 10 Monk, you would get a Monk Past Life.
Wizard
Am I
Past
saying
Life.
that right? Wizard Past Life. So you'd have to have 10 levels of Monk and like 9 levels of Wizard in that scenario to get a Monk Past Life.
Right.
All right.
And did you want to talk about pulling in some lesser reincarnating tricks in here?
We can skip that. I mean, just briefly. I mean, if you happen to have any lesser plus hearts, you can work that in to whatever your build plan is, because the lesser hearts will allow you to change one or more levels, class levels in your build. So sometimes, if you really have a strong preference for playing a certain type of character, it can allow you to kind of fudge your reincarnation a little bit. For example, if you really, really, really like playing casters, and you happen to have like a +5 heart lying around that you got when they were on sale, or that you were somehow magically lucky enough to like win when you rolled the daily dice, or that you looted from a chest because you're the luckiest person ever, and I really hate you for being so lucky, you can use a build like 15 Sorcerer, 5 Fighter, and then just before you TR, use that lesser heart, trade out 5 levels of Sorcerer for Fighter, and then get a Fighter Past Life. Meanwhile, you were a more powerful Sorcerer and were casting spells all over the place as you leveled up and having a good time because you enjoy playing casters. So that's just something to keep in mind, but it's not something really required. But if you happen to have them lying around, you might want to consider using one for one of these reincarnation builds.
Just make sure that you're aware of the rules for lesser reincarnation, which is you can't have more than 3 classes in your build, and that includes the ones that you haven't yet taken.
And any kind of like alignment restrictions between what you are and what you're trying to switch to.
Also a trick. I made that mistake once.
Yes, it's terrible. And also, if you use a lesser heart and you're changing classes, make sure you choose the classes that you're changing first, because I've made that mistake. You can get to the point where you lose the level class. If you don't choose things in the correct order, you can like kind of mess up your build. So always pick the levels that you're changing first.
This is where planning ahead really becomes important.
Yeah. Plan, because you don't want to be the person waiting around for an extra week or whatever, or 3 days to reincarnate because you screwed it up, or having to actually get another heart because you screwed up the one that you happen to have. The next question was, what gear will my build use? And I usually think the main answer to this question is green steel. If you're a hero, it's green steel, green steel, green steel. And if you're epic, it's usually Thunderforged, Thunderforged, Thunderforged. But because those are really the dominant crafting systems for heroic and epic level characters right now. But you can get by with pretty much anything Arcanith crafting up until level 10. And then switch over to some green steel items around level 11 or 12, and you'll be golden to level 20. Don't have to worry about anything, I think.
Or if you're
pretty...
if you're really lucky like me, you can pull out your green steel great sword at level 8.
Yeah. Whoa, how are you that lucky?
I don't know. Well, it's only tier 2, and I think it was made really, really, really early in the system.
Really long time ago?
Yeah. One of my characters has a level 8 green steel great sword.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
It's only tier 2, but it's still pretty potent.
That reminds me of my Maelstrom. I like playing with a Maelstrom as my first weapon. But the old version was level 2, and when the augment pass happened, it became a level 8 weapon. It's still a good weapon, but the level 2 version is really awesome, really really awesome. Um, so
So,
that's
so
kind
you
of
have
like
some other gear recommendations.
uh-huh. If I know I'm going to reincarnate a lot, I try to keep a set of certain items on hand. I keep like a set because I reincarnate a lot. So I figure once I decide to start reincarnating or go for completions or something like that on a character, I figure I'm going to be using all the different types of archetype gear that are necessary. At some point in time, I'm going to need an outfit or some robes. At some point in time, I'm going to need some light armor. And at some point in time, I'm going to need heavy armor. And medium armor, uh, an epic cavalry plate exists for me, but none of the other medium armor really exists for me. Just forget about it. I think because of MRR and PRR changes, I don't really use that as an option.
Barbarian's
Um,
really the only. I guess Barbarian and Favorite Soul are really the only two classes that medium armor is kind of your best, a better option than heavy because you're not
yeah, but
proficient
so
with
many
it.
people are wearing heavy armor nowadays. It's like unless you're trying to maintain your evasion, people tend to go for the heavy or stay balanced. People tend to go for the heavy armor because of the MRR and PRR benefits.
Not
So
everyone's
I
proficient with heavy, so
well, that's true. That's true. But I go out of my way more often to like spec for it and to take that feed than I used to. I mean, I never used to do it. I used to be very, very light armor heavy, but now I find myself even wearing heavy armor on like a rogue, which is,
or a
well, that's a
wizard.
whole other topic. Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms. But if I know I'm going to reincarnate a lot, I keep some of my favorite pieces on hand. And a lot of times they're things that are bound to account. So it doesn't mean that I'm like cluttering up my TR cache forever. So things like if I'm going to have a docent, I like having Blades Mark docents on hand because it's a life shield of invulnerability item, and that's pretty nice docent to wear through a lot of heroic levels. I like having Whisper chains around for and Duelist leathers around for my evasion roguey bard types. Cobalt Admiral's uniform is a really nice like level 4 item that you can get from doing Three Barrel Cove Slayers, and it has Axe Block and Spear Block on it. I think it's Axe Block and Spear Block 3, plus a blue slot. So that's pretty sweet. And outfit, my favorite outfit is Garments of Equilibrium. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. Looks nice too. And then of course I typically, if it's a character I reincarnate a lot, I keep armor on hand for epic levels too. But there's so many choices and there's so many different preferences that people might have, I think, for their go-to armors at epic levels. I'm not going to say this is what you should have kind of thing or offer suggestions because I think it's either going to probably be some form of the shadow plate or it's maybe going to be something that you've picked up from Necro 4 or now the Temple of Elemental Evil, like a set from there. I mean, there's so many options. So you really just have to think about what is my go-to here? What am I going to use possibly over and over? And what might I use in these particular circumstances that I want to keep on hand? And it's just that planning ahead what kind of gear you're going to have. Kenneth challenges are awesome. I mean, I always have Rings of the Stalker and Bracers of Wind around. Ring of the Stalker because of the Manslayer stuff and the Seeker. And Bracers of Wind for blurriness. Even if they aren't a caster, that's my blurry item. Or the Crystal Cove. I think it's a bolt trinket. Is it bolt trinket or is it one of the trinkets gives you blurry as well? So I use one of those items because I blurry everybody who doesn't have the blur spell.
I'm not sure which one has it. To be, I didn't think one of them did have it.
One of them does have blurry. But I might be confusing bold and nimble or something else. I know it's not stalwart, and I think cunning is the magic boost one. So I think it's either nimble or the bold trinket.
Probably be nimble then, because I'm pretty sure it's not on bold.
Yeah, bold might be like shocking blow kind of thing in a exceptional seeker. I think
That sounds right.
Yeah. And also, all of the Kenneth crafting stuff is great if you're going to be a caster. If you're going to be a druid or a sorc or a wizard, or even for fire boosting, using the Cloak of Fire for your favored soul or cleric. It's really good stuff. I don't mind doing challenges. I know some people don't like necessarily doing all the challenges, and if you're a premium or free to play player, it's like over 1,000 turbine points, so that might be a big price tag to get it. But I think that gear can be really helpful. Also, the Mornlord weapons, the Mornlord armor is a good kind of placekeeper thing to have around for your armor. So I think there's a lot in the Kenneth crafting that is some good basic gear for a range of different build types, little pieces that can be useful to a wide range of characters. And there's also some things like minor experience potions, minor guild experience potions that you can use if you don't have access to anything else that can help you as you reincarnate and do all that nice stuff. You can also trade in the components that you farm from doing challenges for more tokens of the 12 to get your true druidic hearts of wood.
You do need the epic versions, though, for that.
Well, yeah, the epic versions, the epic remnants from doing the epic versions of the Kenneth challenges. But that's a good thing, to have more than one way to obtain this stuff that you're going to use when you're reincarnating.
A lot of people actually use, if they need tokens, and they just got to level 20, a lot of people, it's less prevalent now, but Kenneth challenges where people would really go to farm tokens to get through them quick.
The other thing I'll use a lot, especially for like my pre-green steel gear, is I will use the crafting system to make my gear. I use that for my armor a lot too. I'll do life shield of invulnerability versions of armor, like a basic type and then a version of battle armor. And I'll use that as my armor up until I get into the upper heroic levels usually. I'll also use it to make things like my basic weapons, or I'll do an Everbright crafting weapon for oozes and rust monsters if I don't have muckbanes, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really useful ways to get gear and prepare yourself to have a variety of things without necessarily purchasing anything on the auction house or farming a lot of quests, just by using the Kenneth challenges and by using Kenneth crafting. But the idea here is to have a stable of generic go-to pieces, many of which can be bound to account, and then farm your twink gear for your next life before you reincarnate. Because that twink gear, inevitably, you're going to be farming it probably a level or two after the point which you wanted to use it. Because, I mean, usually with quests, I mean, the named items that you get from quests are maybe 1 or 2 levels lower than the quest itself. So it's always a good idea to farm for your twink gear before you actually need to use it.
I like to do that one. Well, so my this is all great advice. My kind of general method of dealing with gear is I don't really save that much stuff, so I end up finding stuff on the way. Just kind of have it be a little bit more of a game, a little more.
Yeah.
A little
that's
more
play style.
Yeah, it breaks it up for me a little bit because now I'm looking for gear. I'm not completely twink.
And that's
Gives it a
part of
little
the
bit more
kind
of a spice, I guess you could say.
It's some of the meta game. It's like kind of like setting yourself your own goals and creating your own goals for how you play the game, because that can be really challenging. That can be a lot of fun. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt, treasure hunt. I tend to be a control freak and a hoarder, so my advice is probably all kind of tied in to that part of my personality. Because I know, like, anybody who's ever seen my inventory on Twitch streams or anything like that probably wants to scream at the monitor about, oh my god, why do you have so much stuff? Oh my god, you have no order. And that's part of it, is I am a hoarder. So I tend to gather a lot more things, like I might use this on this life and I might use this. And I'm always kind of thinking vaguely ahead for how I might use some of this stuff. And then I also just I don't want to not have something when I need it. So I like to try to prepare and plan ahead so much rather than wing it as I level. So that's a little bit personality based and personal preference.
Very much is. So I want to mention 2 things real quick here, and then we'll move on to the next question. One is festival cookies are pretty dang handy, particularly at lower levels, especially if you're, say, doing a caster and your caster doesn't really have a lot of useful spells yet in the harbor and such places. Those festival cookies that you can get around December, end of the year, can be really helpful for some of the stuff. The other thing is you can make the Master's Gift Augment, which we've mentioned on the show several times before, but it gives you that 5% XP bonus, and you can put it in a level 0. It has no minimum level, so as long as you have a level 0 item with a colorless slot on it, you can slot it right in and have
Oh, yeah,
that
and I
right from
totally
the
left
get-go.
that off. I can't believe I overlooked that. I just didn't even mention getting your Voice of the Master or a Mantle of the World Shaper or a Master's gift. We call it Master's GIF in my guild as a in joke, so I almost said that. But yeah, there's certain pieces of gear that everybody typically wants to have, and that's like one of them. You've got to have your XP boost, or even a pale green ion stone hanging around to give you bonus XP.
So let's talk about the next question.
Next question is, what buffs do I need? Certain buffs help you level and complete content. Before you start reincarnating, try to acquire gear that will help your future character out with buffs. And some of these are more important than others. Some of these, again, are personal preference. Some of these are really, really important. Like the first one on my list is Death Ward. And I say that because there's some quests that if you don't have Death Ward, you're going to get level drained and you're pretty much done for. You're not going to win, especially if you're trying to solo it. Case in point, I was flagging for Tower of Despair raid on some server, I think it was Wayfinder, and I was running through a new invasion, and the character hadn't bothered to get any kind of form of Death Ward yet. And I got to the end fight, and I started getting drained. And I realized really quickly that I wasn't going to win this fight unless I got Death Ward. So I literally had to get a hireling just for Death Ward so that I could win that quest. So it's really important. It's worthwhile if you don't have a way to cast these things on yourself. Go do Tangle Root and try to get Visors of the Flesh Render Guard.
If you've been in Evening Star and Epic levels a lot, you can get potions with cleric comms.
Your cleric commendations can trade for nice 20-minute Death Ward potions. Back to Festival Cookies. There's a Festival Cookie that will give you Death Ward, so that's also an option. And then the Mysterious Remnants, you can trade those in periodically for a Everlasting Death Ward potion that lasts 10 minutes. So these are all options, and it's really a nice thing to have, because if you're not always going to be able to necessarily get Death Ward from other people. So you need to either plan on saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to hire a hireling to give me these things that I need, or I'm going to get this equipment so that I have it when I need it. Other buffs you might want are things like Featherfall, which is really easy to come by, so it's not really tricky. Shield or Night Shield is always nice to have. You can get by without it. You can certainly get by without it, but there are certain quests that are a little bit trickier when things are constantly magic missiling you. So there are a couple different options for getting Shield and Night Shield ability to cast. Night Shield, you can get it through the armor from Necro 4 has it. There's Cloaks of Night from the Maybar / Mimic festivals that had that as a clicky. There's always having just enough UMD to cast it from a scroll.
Or you could take that one level of wizard.
Take that one level of wizard so you can get it as a spell, or vice versa, sometimes splash one level of cleric, So it works either way. I mean, you're not restricted to just the wizard. You could do other things. I know some people will take 2 levels of favorite soul, and then they get divine might and stuff, and they get the couple basic spells, and they live happily ever after. There's also shield clickies, are probably easier to come by. There's one that you can get from the Bloody Crypt in the name loot, like Goggles of Shielding, and there's also the belt from Bring Me the Head of Gola Fan in the Restless Isles chain.
There's a shield clicky in one of the Korthos Island rewards too.
Oh, Which one? Oh, from,
I don't remember.
is it from the, oh, I can't remember. I was thinking the one where you fight Jacoby Drexel Handigan, but I'm not sure.
Maybe I don't know. I took it this time around on my Splat character,
I never
but
get
I
it.
don't
So
run
that's why I forgot that,
that
because
stuff
I
that
never
often.
get that one.
Yep.
Never seen it, and I've done that so much. Korthos all over the place, and I never see it. True seeing is important. There's only one clicky that I know of, which is like a staff that comes from Bring Me the Head of Golifan. Is it the Staff of the Seer? I
Does it
think.
come from Golafan or does it come from the desert?
It's Golifan. And then there's lots of different goggle items that will give you a true seeing effect and trinkets.
Or if you have both of the masters, you can get the master's gift set if you have the voice of the
Yes.
master and the cloak of the world shaper.
Yeah, if you equip them at the same time, you get true seeing. They call it DM's Vision. I also have Greater Heroism on my list. You can, of course, get that. If you're human, you can get that from your human racial tree. There's lots of different items that give you a heroism effect now towards the end game. There are clickies like the Planar Gird from Zorian Cipher and the necklace from Shavrath area. And
You
then
can also get potions
Yeah.
with commendations from Eating Star.
the Purple Dragon Knight comms. You can trade for those. It's for greater heroism. Freedom of movement. Here again, there's gear options. There's a reusable potion you can trade Mysterious Remnants in for, I think.
It's
No,
one
it
of the
doesn't seem to
options.
be.
That reward doesn't come around very often, though.
Yeah.
Too.
And those are all in the same timer. So if you have like one of these potions, you can really only use one of them at a time. So you got to pick and choose which is going to be your item of choice. There's Kundarak Delving Boots are always nice. For epic levels, the Orcish Privateer Boots are nice. So there's some options for freedom of movement. There's also some boots that have like immunity to slippery surfaces, which can cover most situations, I think. Like
But not
the
hold monster.
not hold monster, but things like sleet storm and grease and stuff like that. I guess they're more like anti-trolling devices.
There are
For
plenty of
when-
quests where getting held is detrimental to your
Yeah.
health.
But when you have friendly party mates who like to grease the floor or use sleet storm, you can get by with the rock boots in a pinch. Let's see, displacement. Displacement. Oh, I love displacement so much. But if I'm not able to cast a spell on myself, oh, you don't have a lot of luck. Unless you can cast it from the scrolls or you do displacement clickies with green steel. But it is nice. It's a nice to have. You don't have to have it, but it is definitely a nice to have. The same thing goes for blur. And there's several different items that have the blurry effect. I mentioned the Bracers of Wind earlier and the trinket, which I can't remember which trinket it is. And there's several more than that, a different variety of things that have the blurry effect. Invisibility. I love invisibility, but then I tend to zerg a lot. If you don't zerg a lot and run through dungeons invisible, then invisibility might not really be something that you care about. Cookies for invisibility don't really drop anymore. I haven't seen one in a long time. Somebody told me that they got one out of a Catacombs in reward list, but I haven't seen one in ages. So usually I'm either taking that one wizard level to get the Archmage twist thing in there, or I'm using scrolls, or I'm using clickies that I obtained in like 2010 and passing them around between characters.
I feel like potions are dropping with more frequency,
Yeah, I see potions.
which I try and
and
use
of
very
course,
sparingly.
There's like the Nyoko's necklace from the Shavrath gear that has 3 clicks on it. There's some other higher level things I think that have some invisibility clickies on them. But the low level ones, unless you get potions or you're using scrolls or if you have some old thing, there's not as many options I don't think for really low levels. Yugoloth potions can be nice. Here again, they're nice to have. They're not a you have to have. And they're pretty expensive. Once you've gotten all of the favor to actually purchase these from the Shavrath vendor, they cost a lot per potion. I think it's something like 1,000 plat per potion. So here again, pick and choose what buffs you want. But there's a potion that will give you +2 on every stat, and there's usually some kind of detrimental side effect that goes along with the bonus to your ability score. Restoration is more important now, I think, than it used to be, because I feel like I'm running into more con drain, ability drain kind of effects, especially when I'm doing epic content that I need to allow for. I'm thinking, all I can think of right now is Ghosts of Perdition, but but restoration is a very handy thing to have. It's another thing that you can trade in commendations of druid commendations, I think it is,
Yep.
for resto potions. There's also, I think, a version of the bottomless flask of rum from the Crystal Cove event includes, once you've upgraded it some, it includes a restoration effect. There's some different, I think, enhancement effects that have restoration involved. And you can also, if you have 3 medium Eberron Dragon Shards, there's a trader in the marketplace that will trade you a greater restoration clicky that has 20 charges, which is very nice. So that's a good thing to have, at least something on hand, if you can't cast from scrolls. And then the last item I have for buffs is experience point boost pots. You can get minor experience potions from trading in Cannith challenges. You can get them off of daily dice. You can, I think you can trade for potions using medium Eberron Dragon Shards too. Or is it a different size of Dragon Shard?
Not sure. I've never used
I think
those.
you can get a 10% pot out of that.
I
Maybe
keep
it's 20%. I
stockpiling
can't remember.
those shards, and I never actually end up using them.
Oh, there's so many cool things because you can also get like this is another thing I left off: spell point potions, like mnemonic pots. There's a mnemonic clicky you can trade those median Eberron Dragon Shards for as well. So different options for how you can get your spell points back, in addition to just shrining.
I'd also keep your eye out for, say, tasty hams lying around on the ground. When you get to epic content, those can be really helpful at lower levels. They don't give you a lot of hit points back, but it's something that can help mitigate some of that. There's also stuff from the villager accommodations. I think it's villager accommodations. You can get cider that will either give you hit points or spell points back, are options as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's another thing is I always stockpile wands. If every once in a while you'll pick up a wand of invisibility or shield or night shield or blur or resist energy, and I will use those in a future TR typically. So that's it for what buffs do I need. Those are some things to consider. You might want to try to find an item that gives you that ability or different kind of like potions to wrap it up. My next question was, how will I heal myself? And it's a pretty straightforward question. I think back, like the early days of the game, there was more kind of grouping, static groups, and party kind of dynamics going on. But I think the current state of the game is there's a lot more individual play, there's a lot more pickup groups, there's a lot more running through dungeons. So I think when people are reincarnating, they really need to think about, how am I going to heal myself? How am I going to keep myself alive? So it's basically just planning ahead whether or not you can use cure serious wounds or repair serious wounds. But I think that's really only viable for early levels. You can use hirelings. You can trade collectibles. You can plan to use UMD and use different kind of wands. There's also the silver flame pots, but I find those more viable for later epic levels because of the ability score drain. So you usually just need to plan ahead and think about how you're going to heal yourself other than necessarily relying on another party member, because I don't really think that's a viable strategy outside of static groups.
What I tend to do myself is I kind of keep stockpiling potions I find that aren't really going to be very effective at higher levels, and then in between fights at lower levels, I'll just kind of chug them away and get them out of my inventory kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's also worth noting the the epic past, one of the primal epic past life feats is a regeneration effect as well,
Yeah.
which can be a nice trick as well.
hmm and then the last question I had is, who will I be leveling with? It's all well and good for a couple guildies to spontaneously decide to reincarnate at the same time, but reality checks matter. TRing with other people can be a lot of fun, but you need to agree on a leveling plan in advance and stick to it. You got to decide that when you're going to play, is the person that you're going to TR with someone who actually plays at the same time that you do? When is it going to be okay for everybody to level? I think everyone is littered with heroes that have been left behind because they missed a stop on the TR train, and their tears could like turn those stormhorns into a giant lake. Because inevitably, people like spontaneously decide to TR together. Somebody plays more than somebody else, and then somebody gets left behind, and then they kind of flounder. You know, they haven't necessarily thought it through in advance, and so they aren't ready to finish leveling themselves alone. So if you're leveling with someone, try to be conscientious. If you're on your own, plan how you're going to be as self-sufficient as possible. And if you plan to pug, always remember to be patient.
My strategy for a while was there were two guys in my guild that would pretty much do a life a week on a normal week. Sometimes they had bad weeks and it took them an extra day. But my plan was pretty much to, every time they came around and left me, was to grab hold of that train and ride it, hang on as long as I could.
Yeah, that could happen.
Until I missed a day, and
then
I had to wait for the next round. But
yeah, that's not rare. That happens a lot. But I think you just have to be emotionally prepared for it.
Right, and definitely I like to say that having people to do it with can be a great way to break up the monotony, make it more enjoyable. But absolutely, you have to, because we want it to be fun, but if you're working with other people and you fall behind because of this, that, or the other thing, suddenly, then you can start to get drama really easily into that.
Yeah. But I mean, I definitely enjoy leveling with people more than without. It's definitely more fun than soloing. But I think you just need to be prepared. Back to that overall theme of plan and prepare.
And being patient is a good strategy. And, you can find a lot of friends if you're grouping with a lot of people
the
doing
three
this
Ps.
as well. So.
Plan, prepare, and patience.
Good
3 Ps
good
of
advice.
reincarnating.
I think the last word, I got a couple last things I want to throw in here really quick, and then we'll move on to game news. I kind of mentioned this, TRing can be a little bit of a grind. Look for ways to make it more fun if you need to. Experiments, find some friends. Those are great ways to do it. Past lives can be really beneficial if you get several of them. Having said that, you don't feel like you need them. They won't make you a better player. And being a solid player is going to be more powerful for your character than anything you can do in terms of getting past life feats. If you don't like doing it, don't worry about it. You don't have to have a bunch. I myself, and I'm just getting to this point where I'm actually actively working on this aspect of it, is getting all my characters up to 36-point builds and trying to get one past life for each channel. So the iconic channel, primal, martial, divine, and arcane is kind of where I'm focusing that right now. Once you get that, you can. The other buffs are going to be a little bit more incremental. But don't worry about it. If this is not for you, don't feel pressured to get into this. I think. You have anything else you want to throw out there before we move on?
No, I think you covered all of it. It's really about figuring out what your personal style is and trying to make it as fun as possible. And here again, if it's not for you, you don't have to do it. You make a really good point. It's more important to be a solid player, to actually play the game and become experienced playing the game, than what particular past life feats you have, because they don't automatically make you good at the game. They just are a helpful little tweak, kind of addition to your character, but they don't necessarily make your play style awesome.
Right.
Playing makes your play style awesome.
They will make you better. Don't get me wrong there. Most of them will make you better, depending on what kind of class you are. But half of my characters don't have any past lives on them still to this day, and none of the people that know me would say that makes those characters worse. No one calls my characters gimps generally unless they're in jest. So you can get by with a lot more on playstyle than you can for lacking past lives. So
Right.
don't stress it too much. With that, we're going to move into game news, and we're going to try and cruise through a lot of this since we're already going a little bit. But before we do that, here's the next screenshot of the week. Orliath gets photobombed by a dragon in the 217th screenshot of the week, which is a nice little shot there. We are going to cruise through some of this news because there's quite a bit of it since we missed a week. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase a lot of this and really shorten it down. The Chronicle, starting next week, is going to be on Tuesdays. And the reason for that is basically to give readers and Jerry more time to promote events and things that happen on the weekends, since that's when a lot of the event stuff happens, and they want to give people more of a warning on that. If people don't like it, let them know in the comments politely. They're open to moving it back to Friday, but we're moving it Tuesday, which also means we get to find out about the bonus days earlier. Woohoo.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, and possibly even, there wasn't really a definitive answer from Tolero, but we might also get to find out about sales a little earlier. Regarding Dungeon Alert, they have loose, emphasize loose, plans and tentative plans to take a look at Dungeon Alert, but it's not something that they're scheduled, and basically they're not really ready for the discussion. That doesn't mean that they're unhappy doesn't mean that they're not going to listen to people telling them about what they think about Dungeon Alert, but don't expect anything. They're not making any commitments or anything like that. They also kind of clarified some of the stuff that happens with Dungeon Alert. And so Dungeon Alert monster buffs can include, at their strongest, upgrading strength, dexterity, and constitution by up to plus 24. Youch. Adding up to 16 to AC and to hit. Adding up to 100% fortification. Up to 16 on saving throws. Not counting indirect ability scores buffs to saves. They have up to 24 plus 24 skills. They get to be up to 20% faster. They can get True Sight, and they can get immunity to certain triggered effects, which generally applies on Red Alert to weapon damages, different types of weapon damages. So, if you were curious, there you go.
Yeah, I thought that was really informative.
It was very informative, and it was a little scary.
It was bad, but now I'm like, oh, it's really bad. It's really bad.
It's definitely more to work with. Although I always found that the thing that was annoying for me about Dungeon Alert was the speed debuff, which is one of my pet peeves in the game. That's another topic. Epic Monster Save Boosts. I think it was Verguil was looking at some of the stuff from Temple of Elemental Evil, and he found something kind of curious that he let everyone know. Monsters in Epic Elite get a special bonus to save against magic and only magic while they are healthy. This doesn't apply to non-magical effects, and there's a similar but smaller bonus on Epic Hard. Magic in this case means all spells and possibly some other abilities and effects that they have explicitly marked as magical over the years. This starts as a plus 6 to saves and drops to plus 4 once they get hurt, and then to plus 2 when they're between 50 and 75%. Below 50%, they don't receive a bonus. So, some fun factoids if you are into that number crunching thing.
Tap everything.
Yeah. So if you're a DC caster, go up and hit it with your stick, and then cast a Finger of Death on it. Trip DCs. They are currently comparing the strength range data of their creatures to trip DCs. Final tweaks will be modified after that work and kind of based on that. A short version of what they are looking at doing, they want trips to be balanced, assuming the opponent will be making a strength check against its DCs, and they want that to be consistent across all trip abilities. Balance will be used to determine whether you get up after the trip. Trip will have a DC of 10 plus strength plus trip bonuses. Improved trip will be DC 14 plus the greater of strength or dexterity plus trip bonuses. Sweeping strikes will have a DC of 10 plus half rogue level plus the greater of strength or dexterity plus trip bonuses. And enemies will use a strength check rather than a balance as the roll against the initial DC. The values might go up or down depending on the review. None of this is set in stone. All of that general and standard disclaimer. As a side effect, that means that trip DCs will continue to use a completely different balancing scheme than spells. feat or enhancements that are countered with saving throws. So don't necessarily compare them to DCs for other things. That comparison may not work very well. Let's see. Some information on rogues. They are still kind of going through player feedback in DPS videos. Their plan is to take some time to recreate those tests, and they have a patch planned in a couple of weeks, and they'll be doing more changes to rogues there. But they did do some small adjustments before Update 25 went live. I thought this was kind of fun. There was some people asking for more action points, specifically when talking about racial trees and trying to get them to be more relevant. Several came on and said the following, that if we added a tome of action points, we would make core capstones mutually exclusive to enforce the one capstone limit that's in place right now. He would personally like to see a tome that adds some extra racial action points that stacks up to +4 total. He thinks it would make racial trees more relevant. And they can maybe add a tome that adds normal action points that stacks up to +2, provided the players couldn't take more than one capstone. He thinks it would be a kick-ass treasure drop.
That would be just a kick-ass change in general.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of validity in making sure you can only get one capstone, and I think that would keep balancing in check for the most part. But yeah, that would be a pretty... I would say that would probably be the most useful tome in the game if that came out.
Yeah.
In terms of making it more powerful. Shortly behind Tomes of Fate, if you need the extra fate points. Unarmed combat. When they do the monk pass, they want to change hand ramps to be weapons rather than the pseudo weapon, but not really weapon version in the code right now. Assuming they scaled with monk levels the same way, monk attack or unarmed attacks doing that would fix most of the incompatibility issues that they have. The problems with that is it's going to take a lot of time. They need to clear a lot of space. It's also kind of high risk, since hand wraps work so well right now. Changing them all would be just so easy, and nothing bad could ever possibly happen. Yeah. So once they have done that, they can rebalance damage and have confidence they will work with more enhancements, which is really kind of where they don't work and have a lot of compatibility issues. So that's kind of on the horizon. And then there was a fun little a guy on the forums named Gadrin had kind of was using his deductive reasoning to predict when Warlock is coming. Basically what he's saying is that during an interview, the devs mentioned Warlocks having angelic, infernal, and demonic pact options, which is kind of how they work in 4th edition. We know that Update 26 is adding content to Shavrath in June, and since Shavrath is about the battle between demons, devils, and archons, it makes sense that this would be when they might get Warlock. And Jerry did chime in and say that he has some sound logic, although they're not ready to announce any dates, and there's a lot of work to be done. So there you go. So might have them in June, or thereabouts whenever Update 26 drops. I would think June would be a little early in that, but I think the update is probably not far off in terms of when we might get Warlocks. Are you excited about Warlocks?
Not super. It'll be something new to try out and to check out, but I think about, I'm going to have to do some Warlock Pass lives because I have a couple completionist characters, and so there's that obligation there. But it's always exciting. I mean, I think I don't have any preconceived notions for what I want them to be. So I'm prepared to be surprised. And it's always nice to at least check out a new class and see what it's like. But I'm more excited about Shavrath and Epic Shroud kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I would definitely put myself in the same boat. Although I would say that the direction that Severlin has said that they want to take them does sound interesting, and I think it will blend in nicely to the game. All right, that's most of the game news. Now let's talk about Update 25, and we will cruise through some of the release note stuff. Feel free to jump in here if there's anything that strikes you as fun and comment-worthy. Temple of Elemental Evil is live. It's free to VIPs, and the guest DM, surprise, surprise, was Will Wheaton.
Woohoo!
Actually, he was a pretty good DM.
Yeah.
I don't really have feelings about him one way or the other. I know who he is, but I'm not like a Will Wheaton fan, but I'm not a Will Wheaton hater either. But I'd say that he did a good job DMing. I'll talk about more about my thoughts on Update 25 next week. We have a new monster manual, so you have it's also free to
Yay!
VIPs. Also of note, we mentioned this before, but it's the last monster manual to feature astral shards. And the next edition, there's another one coming, will offer a different type of reward. There's another reward type coming. I'm hoping it's mysterious
I hope it
remnants or
doesn't
something.
go into a bag. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't go into bags.
I never thought that the monster manuals gave enough astral shards to really make them worth it anyways.
Yeah, I
It's
love
kind of
the little surprise XP milestones and the companions.
I don't really worry too much about monster manuals. I get them when they come.
They're fun though. I like that feature in the game.
All right, some other stuff of note. Crossbow animations have been changed, so they fire and reload with one click. I should probably actually play a crossbow player before I do a review next week, since I haven't done that yet. There's range power and epic levels and destiny cores, bleed damage scales 200%, melee power. See other stuff that we haven't mentioned before. I think I mentioned this, but veteran status 1 and 2, the minimum level has been removed. Fighters inciting defense now gives 50, 100, 150 hate generation. Fighters threatening countenance now gives 20, 40, 60 hate percent. Paladin's Divine Righteous now gives 200%. That's double than it used to be. Paladin's Inciting Defense gives 50, 100, and 150% hate generation. The Monk Mountain stance starts at 50 and upgrades to 100, 150, 200%. And Brute Fighting or Brutal Spellcasting now give 25, 50, 75% hate generation. I think basically that was all just scaling to the fact that everyone seems to hit harder these days.
Yeah, and everybody's a hate magnet now, I guess. Lots of hate in this update.
Yeah, I guess.
Hate.
It's nice. There were certainly some areas where it became problematic, and I recall recently chastising someone for using mini shot on a raid and just totally stole aggro because he did a lot of DPS in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I've done some runs of Fire on Thunder Peaks where it's like everybody can have the dragon whenever they want, basically.
Yep. See, the Rogue, Assassin, and Mechanic and Acrobat trees have been reworked, so you can check out what's going on in there. I'm not going to go through all that stuff. There's a lot in there. Various feats have been updated to and adjusted to grant melee and or range power. Basically, if you take the full chain of a combat style, you'll get 6 melee power. Weapon focus and specializations give +2 power per feat. And Shot of the Run grants 3 range power. Let's see. We mentioned it last week, but it's worth mentioning again. Ammunition found in chests will now appear in stacks of 100, although I've noticed it's appearing in 2 stacks of 50. And Thieves' Tools now stack up to 1,000 in a stack.
Yay!
And there was much rejoicing.
Temple of Elemental Evil is great and all, but Thieves' Tools stacking up to 1,000 is pretty much my favorite thing from Update 25. It's like the little things that mean so much.
It's pretty exciting. The Crucible, there's a big change to the Crucible. The optional objectives at the start of the quest no longer give any XP. So all you're doing is basically having to fight one fewer dude at the end. The XP for completing the quest has been boosted to be equivalent to the XP removed from optionals. They broke that. It was giving out a lot of XP. I think Cordovan said it was like 2.8 times what it was supposed to.
Somebody I know who did it using a Sovereign XP pot and got Bravery bonus and all that stuff, got about 1 million XP for doing that quest.
Yeehaw. So they closed it and then had a patch, which we'll talk about, to reopen it, because it was giving out way too much. The marketplace now has a teleporter, and they moved some stuff around. The new teleporter is near the airship tower, so you can teleport to all the other teleporters in the game, and then they kind of moved everyone out of the way to make that happen. Let's see. There's some changes to trap making. If you're interested in that, you can check out the release notes. And I think that kind of covers pretty much everything. And then we had patch 1 this week because there were some problems. Not to mention the fact that it took them all day, literally all day. It didn't come up until, 11 o'clock
11,
p.m.
15-ish.
Eastern. Yeah, they had some problems getting up, and they weren't able to get the patch out as fast as they wanted to. And there's still some problems. There's always problems with a new patch. There's always some things that they had to fix, and they have done. Druid and Artificer pets can be trained again. Fred works again. It seems like Fred breaks every third update. There were some problems with 2-weapon fighting and unarmed combat that have been fixed. There's problems with the new monster manual that was giving hunter deeds count per character. Deeds were counting for a count, which is problematic. Fixed an issue with Djinns not getting stuck in their elemental form. They fixed the giant hold. Let's see. And there are a whole bunch of changes to Temple of Elemental Evil to kind of do some little cleanup fixes and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Shadow Boss fix is really nice in the High Road in the Stay at the End.
Oh,
I was rejoicing over that one.
He's more reliably summoned.
Yeah.
I have problems with that.
Yeah, we've had to restart that a couple times.
Bummer.
In the recent past, so that was a good change.
I have heard from several people that the end chest after you kill Zuggtmoy in Part 2 of Temple of Elemental Evil can sometimes stay locked, which is kind of a bummer.
What?
I know a few people that have run into that.
Probably only when it contains +7 tomes.
Probably, yes. That's probably the way that works. Some other bugs of note. Players purchasing the newest edition of the Monster Manual may need to log out, then back in order for their account to be refreshed. Or if you have mysterious cloaks or bracers in your inventory, you'll need to log out and then log back in after installing the game update in order for the augment slot to be fixed automatically. Let's see. There's an issue with Rogue Assassin's Nimbleness. The outdoor map, when you first enter a dungeon, does not display. That's in the Temple of Elemental Evil, just in the little entry area. And let's see. The Dungeon Master audio and text for the end fight against Zuggtmoy gets cut off at the beginning of the fight. Let's see. We fixed the animal companions. The exit to Temple of Elemental Evil doesn't work, so if you go in, you can't use the door to get out. You can still get out from recalling all other means.
Yeah.
They fixed epic materials dropping in Temple of Elemental Evil. Galana has been having some problems, and Leg Shot still requires level 12, even though it's now level 4 enhancement.
Huh.
And the last piece of game news, for those who like to keep track of this stuff, the default world is now Orion. So Orion will probably get some more folks. Bonus days. Yeehaw. Month of Elemental Evil. They're doing full week bonus days, and they are themed for the different elements. This week's was Fire. It runs through April 16th. We can burn through levels. So there's 20% heroic and epic XP boost, and additional 5% VIP XP
That's
boost.
not evil.
It's true. Would you like something different?
I would not like something evil. I like that bonus very much.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
So I'm glad they went more elemental than evil with the bonuses.
I'm sort of curious as to how they're going to tie these in, because when I first saw, okay, it's Fire Week, and we're getting XP bonuses, I'm not complaining, but what's the connection? So I'm not sure what the connections are going to be the rest of the time.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see, and they will have some fun of that.
I'm guessing water. I mean, the water might be a lot of potions on sale or something.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Store news. Some new items, of course, with Temple of Elemental Evil. Temple of Elemental Evil costs 650 Turbine points. Monster Manual 4 is 595. And there's kind of a fun one here. There's an Evil Buddy bundle. For 895 Turbine points, you get the content of Temple of Elemental Evil. You get 3 guest passes, 3 res cakes, and an ethereal rest shrine. So it's kind of a fun little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see some more bundles like that, actually. That's kind of an interesting bundle, I think. And let's see, some sales. And these are through, and I didn't write the date down, whatever Thursday is. They should be through that. I guess it would be April 16th.
16th? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Veteran status level 7 is 75% off. If you do not have veteran status level 7, it's like 195 turbine points or something like that. It's less than 200 turbine points, I think. So that might, now is kind of the time. If you're going to buy it,
Yeah.
I'd buy it now.
And now it comes with like a cleric hireling or something?
It does indeed. You can still, I think you might be able to still get it if you buy one of the Shadowfall expansion pack. But I'm not positive on that. In any case, it's 75% off right now, and it's dirt cheap. I remember seeing the price and thinking, wow, that's really cheap. I don't remember what it was, but it was cheap. You can also get 25% off of the Harper Enhancement Tree for the first time it's been on sale. And you get 25% off of Stat Tomes, Guild Renown Elixirs, and 32-point builds. So, yeehaw. They really want you to start in the Temple of Elemental Evil, or if you want to. So they make that kind of cheap. The freebie for the week is a Greater Elixir of Angel's Tears Cure 10 is the code. CURE 10. I did not bother, personally.
I didn't either.
I usually will at least begrudgingly buy whatever the freebie of the week is, even if I may not ever use it. Like the Potions of Bear's Endurance. I did not bother with it. Angel Tears. I don't even remember what they do.
They're kind of like, they remove some effects and stuff.
Yeah.
I get them from Daily Dice, and I'll use them when I get enfeebled and things like that.
They're still stockpiling up in my bank.
But they aren't like restos, so they'll remove effects, but not the direst ones.
And Titan from the chat wants to say hi, Bonnie, and to say that he's done streaming. Let's see. Chronicle 136 Chronicle. We got 2 chronicles to get through. We're gonna burn through these. Ginger Spice had an Easter hide and seek event, and if you're looking for a weekly game group, they want you to check out the permadeath and static groups on the forums. The High Lords of Malkir were teaching the Shroud last week. The guild was the Crusades of Heaven, a Kyber-based casual guild looking to recruit both new and veteran players. People looking for a casual social environment should contact Josetta in-game. The guild is celebrating its 4th anniversary with a ship upgrade to the Kraken. Congratulations, guys. Bonnie, what is your favorite elemental or element?
My favorite element?
Yeah.
I think my favorite element is air elemental, because they're the toughest.
Well, it's just element. It's the Chronicle comment for the week.
Oh, well, water might be my favorite element. Water is my favorite element in terms of elements, because I like to swim. So I'm very water-based.
I'm going to pick Earth, because I like walking on Earth better than anything else. Everything else is kind of detrimental to my walking ability.
Continued living.
Yep. Let's see. We got a shout-out for our character builds debate for our last DDOCast episode. Players News interviewed Cordovan. Chief Damsel DDO was in Necropolis with Mari as a guest. DDO Gamer was talking about Update 25. Longshartus had thoughts about Temple of Elemental Evil, and Enrique was looking at the Quest for Reclamation. Let's see. They released the complete interview with Ed Greenwood on YouTube, which we'll link to in the show notes, which was kind of a fun listen to. If you've been in the commentary version of the Hall of Heroes, you'll recognize a lot of those. Well, all of those comments are from that interview, but there was a lot more in there as well, and it was a fun listen to. See, the Wednesday weekly lunchtime live stream that week looked at rogue enhancements. The 137th Chronicle. If you're looking for a walkthrough, Biz has a nice post on the forums, full of spoilers all over the place. Full Moon Fury had barbarian poetry, which is quite an interesting concept.
I would think barbarian poetry would have all one-syllable words.
Hack, slash, smash.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. I should remember. I don't remember much about it, but I did look through it, and it was pretty entertaining. The Journeymen are a moderate role-playing guild on Solana that focus on developing characters both in and out of the game, so you can check them out. The second Chronicle comment for this week for us, if Zugget Moy was featured on a breakfast cereal, what would it look like, and what would it be called?
The Elemental Crunchies. It'd have marshmallows that are the shape of all the little symbols for the different elements, and then a sweet corn cereal that's slightly fungal.
I was trying to think of some sort of fungal theme.
Well, you could put the little cleansing and toxic and sheltering mushrooms in your cereal.
Well, I was thinking something along the some sort of fungus food or something. You have kind of like Lucky Charms has the different marshmallows. You have the marshmallows would be the different mushrooms.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Either the different mushrooms or the different elemental symbols.
Yeah. But
if Zugget Boy had a cereal, it would probably not be good for you.
Let's see. DDO Players News got a shout out. We got a shout out for DDO Splat.
Yay!
Yeah.
I
We'll talk
hear
about
you've
that
been
a
in
minute.
the harbor a lot.
We'll talk about that in a minute. DDO Cocktail Hour. Let Samus go. Samus talked about. I think he was, if I remember correctly, he was mostly ranting about it, when they let him quote go. He was ranting about the stuff that's going on in Indiana. It was a great episode, though.
Samus rants, let the earth tremble.
Samus rants are entertaining, I think.
It's always a good time.
And, well, his rants too, though. Like they're ranty for sure.
But there's always a point.
They're thought out and they're reasonable, and he's not like off the rails or anything. DDO Gamer and the Order of Syncletica were debating stealth. There was kind of a fun back and forth between them, whether or not stealth works. I think I'm going to have to get them on the show for DDO debates on stealth. That could be entertaining.
I'll probably be on Jeff's side this time.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, they both had very good points, and I think they both were right in many ways. It's really their differences is more from a difference in what they're doing.
That's the best kind of debate too. Is when everybody's right.
Enrique was looking at the meteoric star Ruby augment. Let's see, anything else in there? Jerry was on the lunch live stream doing a little bit of Q&A and a lot of giveaway stuff. If you would like to hang with other DDO players, join the chat room on Twitch. That's also an option.
Yeah, do that.
And let's see. There was also several articles about the update on MMORPG, Massively OP, and Game Banshee, if you want to read those as well. Let's see. Other videos that I wanted to point out. There's a Temple of Elemental teaser trailer, which was kind of fun to watch. It's really short. Of course, there was the Wednesday Rogue preview. Let's see. If you want to see the old tutorial, what the old tutorial looked like for the game, Jerry went in there as kind of a little April Fool's joke and showed some of that off. So if you never got to see it, you can see that at the beginning of the video. There was some clarification on Assassin's Trick. It removes the creature's immunity to sneak attacks. You still have to get past their fortification. And the Artificer Rack construct was also buffed to match the Rogue Rack construct. The last weekly Wednesday was a lot of giveaway stuff. One of the things that Jerry answered was that Epic Shyrath and Epic Fail will be new quests, which is not necessarily new news, but he did emphasize that. And he also said that they will probably be new adventure packs. Spring Fling went to Ritual Sacrifice. They're getting ready to wrap up with the Shroud.
Yep.
We already mentioned Ed Greenwood's Haunted Halls video. There were lots of stuff going on in the blogosphere and podcasting. Damsels of DDO have had 11 and 12 episodes. The 11th and 12th episodes come out since I last did the show. Cocktail Hour had 83. The Players News, DDO Players News had 26 and 27. There was, of course, the debate between DDO Gamer and Order of Syncletica. Tactilicious and Craftilicious had a Temple of Elemental Evil review. And MMO Play had a fun little article about why they still love DDO, which was pretty good. There was also, I wanted to mention that LSD's Character Builder Lite has version 1.0 available. So we'll link to that, I think, in the show notes. Hopefully I remember to grab that. I did. Okay, good. I didn't put the link in my notes. I did make sure that it was down in my actual notes that I publish. Let's see, DDOCast news. So I already mentioned we will probably be returning to Google Hangouts instead of Twitch because people like the video, and I haven't really found a good way to make Skype work. The nice thing, kind of the big thing is, the nice thing with Hangouts is it integrates me on video and everyone else on video and does all the video switching automatically.
Yeah.
Skype doesn't really do that, and Skype throws ads in it, and which is what we're using right now and going through Twitch and stuff like that. So I'm probably going to be moving more towards Hangouts, provided it stays stable. Had some problems the last couple of weeks. But I checked it this morning and it was working, so hopefully it will stay that way. So stay tuned for on Twitter. Is probably I'm trying to be better about using Twitter for social media. I'm still using Google Plus and Facebook, but follow us on Twitter at DDOcast. That's where you're going to find. If I'm going to put it one place, I'm going to put it there. So it's also the only place I'm putting DDOcast Splat announcements, which we had episode 9 and 10 since then, and boy, are the deaths rolling in. It's been a rough. We had, I think Steiner died at the end of episode 9, and Lessa and Entomix perished during episode 10. The kobolds are strong right now, and are racking up some kill counts. But if you want to stay updated if you want to keep watching that live, definitely sign up for Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, because that is going to be moving around like crazy during the spring. If you didn't pick this up, my work schedule gets busier in the spring because we're doing our biggest show of the season. I end up doing a lot of stuff on the side for a lot of clients that I've been working with for a number of years, so my weekends fill up. And I umpire Little League Baseball. So my schedule is nuts right now. So if you want to know when DDOcast Splat is going to be and when DDOcast is going to be, if you want to watch live and where to watch live, follow me on Twitter. That is the single best place to do it. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I never thought I'd be using Twitter 5 years ago. I've been actively avoiding Twitter. And I still do for my personal life. But there you go. All right. Some lightning posts to get through really fast. Dan wrote in regarding our debate episode. Regarding the best action boost, Steiner picked the human skills boost. What no one mentioned is that you can also have the human action boost increase a stat of your choice, and he actually multiple stats with that, which is why he thinks those are better. For the trapper example, you can have it increase your straight skills, and he believes it adds up to +3 to intelligence at the same time, a double bonus, which is very true. And Steiner did not mention that, unfortunately for him. I actually don't remember who won that debate, to be honest. The Longshotist, also about our debates episode, said he has to disagree with the comment about the majority of quests being good aligned. He's read the NPC dialogue on these things, and more often than not, the PC is not really, quote, good. The characters are more than willing to do heinous things for various entities with the promise of material gain. That's why we're called adventurers. Just one example, the world of Eberron is designed to include monstrous races as part of society, not as cut and dry as traditional D&D, where orcs are always and forever evil without exception. That in mind, look at the tier of Dakan. A hobgoblin tribesman pays you to wipe out another tribe so they can take their land. At one point, you're killing sleeping hobgoblins in their home, which is a fair point. I hadn't ever considered it that way. I just kind of go in and kill the hobgoblins because, they're hobgoblins. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you kill hobgoblins? So there you go. The survey question for the week, and we're going to answer this in a ridiculously low number of 5 sentences. Michael asks, what are your favorite character builds and why?
I would say Swashbuckler.
Well, that works. That was quick. Why?
And it's because it's the best of all worlds.
You like being able to...
You can melee, you can spellcast, you can heal yourself.
You can even throw out a throwing weapon.
Yeah. You can do everything, really. So you can just do whatever you feel like on your bard. Yay, bards!
My favorite character build changes with the moon. I like variety in my play, so I play different things all the time. It's pretty much whatever I want to. But if I have said a few times, the one thing that I find myself going back to is if I've had a rough day and I just want to blow stuff up, I'm going to a sorcerer. Blowing stuff up is fun. With that, we're going to close out the show. Bonnie, you should give some plugs for what you're doing out in the world.
I'm not doing much of anything because the Fling is wrapping up this week or next, but I think people, if they play on Argo, they should keep an eye out because I think we're going to pugs one of the shrouds we do in the next week or two to wrap up the Fling on Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And I also Twitch off and on, so you can find me at twitch.tv/BonnieBew.
Anything else you want to throw out here before we close out?
I can't think of anything else. But yeah, a lot of other things you've mentioned, like the Damsels of DDO, they are always fun. So you should try to follow their show and watch them whenever you can because they're a hoot.
They are indeed. all the shows are great.
Mhm.
DDO, we'll give some shout outs.
There's a lot of
DDO Players
good-
News. Those guys are really fun to listen to. They're green and it's awesome.
And I might be guesting on their show in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. They're a lot of fun to work with.
Mhm.
I had Draculetta on the show, and I've been on their show, and a lot of fun. So I like what they're doing. Let's see who else is out there. Oh, I didn't mention this earlier. Your DDO is also looking to start podcasting. I think he had some problems with his first attempt, and I couldn't find it to listen to. But I'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully he'll get some
Along
episodes
with
out there.
Perkysaurus, who
Yes.
is a nice person. So good luck to them with their podcast. They're both like really. I've gotten to play with both of them, so I'm like, yay!
We love more podcasts. We love the. It's not even competition for us because everyone's kind of doing different things, so it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of really fun, exciting things that people are doing in the DDO community. So I think that's really exciting.
And of course, Cocktail Hour is always fun. Melissa and Samus are a great team. Although I'm gonna have to duck when I say this. I think the damsels are giving them a run for the money for the best
Yeah,
hosting combo going on here.
yeah. I'm kind of partial to the damsels.
They're both
Girl
great.
power.
They are both great. Absolutely. So they're a lot of fun.
Only
to listen to.
only one of them has Mithery though.
It's true.
Yeah.
Only one of them has
Yeah.
Mithery, and everything is about Mithery.
Everything's about Mithery. Yeah,
So-
right.
There you go. With that, thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for joining us, for the people in the chat room and commenting. And I really appreciate you guys listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope it was helpful for you. Thanks for Bonnie for being on the show. And thanks for all the other contributors at DDOCast. It's a great, fine group of folks. And hey, another shout out to all the folks that are active in the DDO community. I'm just going to say this, even though I have absolutely no experience with any other gaming communities. We've got the best community. We're pretty awesome. And I say that even accounting for the fact that I'm as dry as a creek bed. And there you go. So, also thanks to Turbine and Wizards for making DDO and D&D and making that happen. And thanks to Cybridge for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, our counter, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. I post all the videos that we DDOcast and DDOcast Splat there. And there's also some stuff that automatically gets posted there from other blogs that I will hopefully maybe sometime update to some of the newer stuff. If you want to be part of the show or just say hi, you can email us at ddocast.com. ddocast@gmail.com. Hey, if you want to send me your thoughts on something, that's great. I will probably read it on the show, whatever you might have. So, we're doing an Update 25 review next week. If you want to send in your thoughts, that'd be great. Closing tip for the week. Thomas from Wayfinder says, stack your past lives. Very appropriate for this week.
Oh yeah.
So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to plan and be patient. And there's a third one. I forgot the third
Plan,
one.
prepare, and be patient.
There we go. Thanks for listening.